How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about 5 ways you can improve your stories. Villain, antagonist, bad guy. So yeah, let's begin. So an antagonist is really important to a story. This can be a person who either is someone who challenges the ideologies and goals of your protagonist. It could be something more psychological, such as an illness, a cure, a decision. It can be the sticky glue that really holds your story together. A lot of stories, especially like really popular ones on Wattpad, they kind of the antagonist is kind of placed last minute because like storytelling, it's kind of dead at the moment because a lot of it is from fan fiction, and so it feels like the villain is somewhat getting left behind. So today, instead of talking about why you should read, I'm going to be talking about the ways that you can yourself improve your antagonists. Number one, I really want to talk about is give your villain a backstory and give him reasons as to why he's opposing your main cast of characters. In more recent times is either Thanos from the whole Infinity War Marvel thing. He has there's a reason for why he's doing that stuff, and it's all quickly explained, but there's still some sort of reason behind his actions. And I think another good example in a literary form is It Chapter 2 came out, and I wanted to talk about that whole character, Stephen King's It. So basically, from the 1990s, I'm going to be talking about that one, the miniseries It, with Tim Curry's Pennywise. Now I've seen I grew up with the 1990s. They have a really strong looking antagonist. Like, he's definitely, it is such a visual, a scary clown. And the bad thing about 1990s It is that we don't actually understand who he is. There's this weird bit at the last 20 minutes where he's a giant spider, and I guess you find out he's an alien. But besides those two things, you don't really learn that much. I think there's something to do with souls, and that he likes killing kids. That is it. Which is weird when you take in consideration the book, Stephen King's It, at I think it's over 440,000 words long. Yeah, he goes into incredible detail about the court cases, I think, that take place. I think it might be before Georgie's death, I think. So yeah, he does a lot with actually exploring who it is, why he chose Derry as a place to kill and torment, why he's doing the things he is doing to the kids, why he's haunting them, why he's tormenting them, and what's led Pennywise to this current situation where we see in the story. It all comes together to challenge the kids, the main cast, the protagonists. This idea of giving the audience a reason to vouch for the heroes, but also an understanding of why the antagonist does what he does. It also creates a whole more reward to the conflict, and it also humanizes the events that take place and makes things a lot more real and a lot more structurally appropriate. So yeah, number one, give your villain antagonist a backstory and reasons for why he does his actions. Number two is to use the 5 senses. I think everyone who's ever written anything, anyone who's in school, knows what the 5 senses are: smell, touch, hearing, taste, and sight. These are incredibly important. However, when used by themselves, and the most common one in literature is sight, because we're just describing how we see things, are actually very simplistic by themselves. But when you put them together, it can really improve a story and put the reader into the book. When you introduce an antagonist, you should manipulate these senses. What do they smell like? Do they smell of something eerie, like a death, a sickness, when they walk around, kind of like a tip, you know, a local tip, or the public bathrooms at a really gross restaurant? Do they give the main characters goosebumps when they walk by? Does hearing their voice, is their voice croaky, rough, gravelly? And does that name of theirs, you know, is it a taboo? Is it something that the main characters fear? Is it something that the audience should fear? I think putting all these things together, you know, you can even describe, you wouldn't be like, oh, he tastes like sugar, no, but you can be like, I tasted the coldness inside his heart. You know, you could use metaphors as to what he would taste like, what the characters tasted when the main villain is around. So I think number 2, use the 5 senses. I think this is for everything, but use the 5 senses when describing and putting your antagonist in the story. Number 3, don't always make your antagonist the exact opposite of your main character. Good and evil, fire, water, light and darkness kind of thing. An example of this contemporarily is The Flash on the CW. The Flash's main villain in season 1, which is the only season I've seen, is the Reverse Flash, who has the reverse colours of his costume, which do create a visual representation of who the Flash is and like how one of them is good and one of them is evil, but it doesn't really, it's very on the nose. On the other hand, if we look at a antagonist villain who isn't exactly the opposite of the main character, I think a good example is George Orwell's 1984's Big Brother. Big Brother's this whole idea of governance propaganda, that whole we don't have the right to freedom and privacy. And the cool thing about Orwell is he's a fantastic writer because he's constantly using the 5 senses like that. And the cool thing about Big Brother in comparison to Winston, the main character, is well, you don't even see Big Brother in the story. You don't know what he looks like. There are the posters and the propaganda of Big Brother, but you never actually see who Big Brother is. And when you compare that to Winston, there's nothing to relate them to. They're completely dissimilar. And I think this idea of not being able to relate Big Brother to Winston creates this opposing, an even stronger opposing force, because Winston's dream is to rebel. He wants to break through society's norms and regulations, and Big Brother is holding him back. It creates a more endearing story, and almost an antagonist that really isn't necessarily an opposite or everything the main character isn't, but is someone who is created through their own unique characteristics, their unique. Point 3 being, don't always make them the opposite, because you can make a stronger character just giving them their own unique characteristics rather than the opposite characteristics of your main character. This can also be developed further through Kristen Kiefer's The 4 Main Types of Epic Antagonists. Number 4 is the antagonist doesn't have to be simply evil. They can actually be different things. This is studied through Kristen Kiefer's article on the 4 main characteristics of an antagonist. Obviously the first one's your evil antagonist, you know, your Jokers, your Pennywises, even your Big Brothers. However, there are different variations. Another type of antagonist that you could do is the everyday antagonist. Now, the everyday antagonist is a lot more simple than the evil antagonist. They're a person who is basically a part of the story, but they don't want to destroy the world. They don't want to get revenge. They simply don't like or disagree with the goals of the character and find them dangerous. So if your main character wants to take this cute girl to the prom, their mother, the antagonist, could not like that idea because they could think the girl's dangerous. A great example is the evil stepmom from Cinderella. It also can develop into a plot twist where you don't actually know who the antagonist is until towards the end of the book, where you're like, oh, it's actually this person, because they've always been challenging the main character's goals. So if you can make a character who's just an everyday person, nothing wrong with them, but they just don't like the same ideas and ideologies as the main character, they're opposing those ideas because they want to protect the main character, because they think they might be dangerous, that can create a really interesting and unique, it's not done very often, antagonist. The immoral antagonist is another type of antagonist. Normally these entire entities, such as an organization, a government, a social system that could be blocking the main character and the group that they're a part of from, breaking free or revealing who they are. And they could even try and get revenge on the main character for doing something to their corporation, which can lead them to power. That's them. These guys are in bloody everything that's YA, so like Hunger Games. Wicked is a good example from the Maze Runner. I did it in my book. YA's got it covered when it comes to the immoral antagonist, entity, the internal antagonist, the thing that's inside the main character. It could be, what happens afterwards when someone finds that they're diagnosed with cancer. It could be something that is brought on by a decision or a flaw or a confrontation, and it leads characters to different situations that they have to overcome while having the grief inside them of this internal dilemma, I suppose you'd call it, because it's something that confronts their pre-established norms. So yeah, a fantastic one. Or these would be good because you could go with more psychological stories, a more down-to-earth story about what it's like to have depression or anxiety or something that's mental, or the LGBTQI community. I think these type of stories haven't actually been explored that much, so that would be a very interesting antagonist. And finally, number 5 is do what feels right in your story. As long as the antagonist is opposing your main character and their friends, you're doing a fantastic job. Doesn't matter if you want one of your main side characters to get slain by this evil villain. Doesn't matter if you want your everyday antagonist to be revealed in the middle chapter. Reveal them in the middle chapter. Outline just the few little tips that I've detailed. It can really help. It can really make a great antagonist, but it's got to feel right to both you and your story. You can't just force things in. You might not have enough time to give them a deep backstory and detailed situations, so I suggest just showing off that there's a reason behind their goals. If you're making maybe a children's book, or if it's an internal dilemma, make sure that if it's something to do with an illness, make sure the medical procedures behind this, they're affecting the mental state, the physical state of your character. No matter what your antagonist is, it could be just your classic villain, it could be a clown, it could be the purest of evils, it could be an organization that challenges your protagonist. If the plot points don't feel right, if you feel that you're just putting these dot points in because I said them, it could affect your story completely and actually make it worse. So make sure that it feels right to you, because you're the one who's writing the story. And as long as they're, like I said, opposing your main characters, you'll definitely have a firm footing on a fantastic and amazing, successful bad guy. Just a quicker video this week. I have a lot on with university, so yeah, don't forget to do all that YouTube stuff, subscribe, like. I'm a little sick and I just started doing videos, so that's great. I only have 1 subscriber, so we're working on it. But yeah, do that fun stuff and have a good day. Bye.